Let's jump to this story from the New York Post. Doxing truck drives around Harvard showing names, photos of students who blamed Israel for Hamas attacks. That's the story. Giant video screens hung on the sides of trucks posting the names of these individuals. So the story is a bunch of student groups signed a letter that explicitly said the only one to blame for this is Israel. And it's led to a major backlash. A truck is now posting their names. And you've got more CEOs signing on saying they will never hire any one of these students who signed one of these letters.
Whoops.
And I'm sitting back, putting my feet up, like, don't look at me for help.
Yeah.
Hello, because that's the same thing y'all did for every other issue, every other time. So, hi, that's karma.
It's like, y'all, we begged you not to do this. We said cancel culture is wrong. Yeah. People should have their free speech. So there are certain limits. I don't think everything's absolute, right? Mm-hmm. Some people don't want to associate. I get it. But the line the left drew was so ridiculous. Like comedy, banned. You know, you made a comment 10 years ago, banned. We misinterpreted what you said. You're fired. Okay. Yep. You made the rules, buddies.
Yeah.
You wanted to sign on to this. They thought they were on the right side of history, but they weren't, and now they will never get jobs again. Talk about wasting your college years. Oof, must be brutal for them.
And especially considering, like you said, I think it was you brought up the point. It's like most of them. Actually, I think it was Tim, sorry. That they're just jumping on because their peers are. So you're not even thinking about it and you mess yourself up.
There's a tweet.
You're not thinking about it.
I can't remember the guy who said it. I could probably pull it up, but he said, you know, I'm not gonna cut anybody some slack over signing this, but you know, gotta understand a lot of students didn't even know what the letter was when they signed onto it. And I'm like, wow, that's even worse.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Then you kind of deserve it even more.
Then it has nothing to do with what they signed. It's the fact that they signed it at all that they would that they would be kept out of it. I do have an issue with the idea of compelled speech, though. Like there was a Breitbart article today or yesterday, it was like the top 10 Instagram celebrities with the most followers who haven't said anything about Israel. I was like, I
don't love that.
I thought 10 years ago or 5 years ago we said these people are idiots who don't know anything about foreign policy, and we didn't care what their opinions were. I don't like that either. I don't like the idea of either side telling me or anyone that I have to have an opinion on something.
So this is a professor at Harvard who tweeted, I yield to no one in my revulsion at the statement apparently made on behalf of 30 plus Harvard student groups. But please, everybody take a deep breath. Many in these groups never saw the statement before it went out. In some case, those approving did not understand exactly what they were approving. Probably some were naive and foolish. This is not a time where it is constructive to vilify individuals, and I am sorry it's happening. Oh, a Harvard professor. He probably agrees with them. But let me just say, my friend, you know, there were a lot of Nazis. We'll just go straight Godwin's law on these people because it's related to Israel. There were a lot of low-level Nazi soldiers who did not know what was going on, but they loaded those people up onto trains and trucks, all the same, and were held accountable for it. Just doing your job is not an excuse. These people at Harvard signed onto a statement empowering it, and it was shockingly offensive to a lot of people. Now, I don't know that my personal values, like I would fire someone who said something shocking and offensive to an extreme degree. I'd probably just talk to him about it and be like, I don't know, man, like consider the implications of what you're saying and whether it's strategically, you know, valuable. And then I do have my lines, though. I think everybody does. If I put it this way, if you were hanging out with your buddies at a bar and one guy got up and started screaming racial slurs at somebody, you'd be like, dude, stop. What are you doing?
Yeah,
like, knock it off. Sure. That's not cool. And so that's basically what's happening right now. The issue I take with the far left was that their cancel culture was always extreme. There was a race car driver whose dad said the N-word in the 80s, so his sponsors canceled on him. Like, that's nuts. Like Sarah Silverman did blackface 10 years ago, so they get her fired from a movie. I'm like, well, you know, she made her bed, she's going to lay in it. Yeah. That's crazy. If somebody has an extreme opinion, then I think it's like you criticize them for it, you question them for it. And depends on what the severity of the opinion. The problem was the left was getting people fired and canceled for the most tepid conservative opinions.
Nothing.
Right.
And they still do. I mean, we can't also pretend as if like that's completely over. It's definitely softened, but you know, that still happens all the time. So fire with fire, I guess.
Well, it's not fire with fire. It's them trying to set a fire and burning themselves,
like,
and me sitting back and being like, "Leave me out of it."
Yeah, live by the sword, die by the. That's that whole thing is like, you know, you get what you give. We talk about a lot, like the cult will come for you if you live by the sword, die by the sword. It's an ancient phrase. That like if you live your life canceling people, well, you're going to surround yourself with other people that love to cancel people, and then watch out one day for you.
Comes around.
But that doesn't mean I won't forgive them and welcome them back. But I do not trust people that snap to crazy judgments of others.
They don't even consider themselves friends. They consider themselves allies. They don't have friends. Yeah, they're comrades.
But that's that slippery slope that they never seem to understand either. You know, it's like, to them, it's a fallacy. To anyone who pays attention to how life works, humanity works, history works, that's not a fallacy at all.
Live by the sword comes from the Bible.
It does.
Oh.
It does.
Matthew 26:52.
Yep.
Was that something
Then
that Jesus
said Jesus unto him, put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword.
Yes.
What is he saying? Like, so grab your sword and arm yourself? Is that what he's saying? Or does he say put it back?
No, it's a proverb. It's basically saying, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yep. That's where it comes from.
I feel bad. If I was Seamus, I would have known that. And then I would
Right. Seamus is probably at home right now being like, Ian, you didn't know that? You said an ancient...
Sorry, Seamus. Come back on the show. I need you.
But I guess also the part of it is they don't really realize it's a sword to begin with, right?
No, they don't.
Like they don't when they're ruining people's lives over the most minor infraction, which they are so accustomed to doing, they don't actually think about that person's life after in any regard. So to them, it's nothing. So the slightest bit of blowback to them, it's like, maybe we'll rethink some things now.
Actually, I think the worst of them do think about it. I think they want you homeless in a box.
Oh, they want it.
They want you to suffer and die alone on the streets with no money. That's why it's so insidious, that it's not enough to just have you scolded. It's not enough to just have you criticized. You have to be given... You have to have everything taken from you before in there, that bloodlust is never quenched.
Right. And they'll say things like, it's about accountability culture. It's like, first of all, who are you to hold me accountable for anything? You're not God. You're not my parents. You're you're no one. But it's like, that's not accountability when your entire life is dismantled because of a tweet from 10 years ago. Yeah. And that's more on the extreme example of what happens, but it's not as if that's super rare. That happens.
There's something higher than both God and your parents. They're the offended, and that's apparently above all of those.
Yeah, accounting is like when you're taking an accurate cost analysis. And if you're over accounting, if you're doing it wrong, maybe you're charging too much for the value. Like ruining someone's entire livelihood because they wore blackface 10 years ago, I feel like is overdoing it. It's a misaccount.
For you to determine what the accountability should be is like, even if I'm going to be held accountable, let me figure out how to make amends with myself with what I've done. You don't tell me what to do.
Well, if you have blackface, you can still be the Prime Minister of Canada. So
yes.
Remember, it's okay.
Or Joy Behar.
Oh,
hello.
Yeah. Or governor. I forgot about that. True.
But we never knew if it was blackface or the Klan costume, which one.
He never answered. That's the best part. He's like to this day, he's going to take that to his grave. It'll be in his memoir when he writes a book.
Schrodinger's racism.
Are you talking about Gavin Newsom?
No, Trudeau.
Not Trudeau.
No,
the governor.
Yes.
Who?
Northam?
Governor Ralph Northam?
Yeah.
And that's just to distract you from the whole 9-month abortion thing.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's wild.
I was just like getting like all that. I feel like we're talking about racism, cancel culture. That stuff is like, it feels like vomit. It's like kind of out of me now, but it's like still with me kind of. But then I think about like Israel, Palestine, and then I feel like I'm burning in hell. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is 2019. It's nuts. 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Blackface and KKK garb, and we don't know which one he was. So he is in a superposition of both offensive costumes at the same time.
So funny, dude.
It's like I actually cloned myself and I'm both people at the same time.
Well, no, it's just like if he's not going to tell us which one he did, then he's both.
True that.
That's crazy.
It's because like both has like their own like individual problems with it that make it worse. So
Yeah, right.
He's like, he doesn't want you attaching whatever's worse about either one of those in particular ones to that exact costume.
You know, the crazy thing is it was in their yearbook or something.
Yeah. It was. Or I think Trudeau's was also. I think it was a yearbook thing.
But that's also kind of the
was a Halloween
revisionist history that goes on, and people really pretend as if like Nazi jokes were not acceptable even like 10 years ago.
There's a picture of
Sarah
Taylor
Silverman
Swift
dressed up like Hitler on Conan or something like that.
Everyone kind of did it. That's the reason you can pull up all these mainstream celebrities. It's like there's a reason why they weren't canceled in the moment and then it aired on live television. It's because we kind of did have a sense of humor.
Who did you say dressed up as a Nazi on
Sarah Silverman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
As Hitler.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And it's okay because she's Jewish. That was what the whole point was, at least.
I'm concerned.
Comedy is okay. Like,
Yeah,
you
it's a
had
joke.
Count Dankula's famous video where he had the pug doing the salute, and it was like he said the cutest thing in the world doing the most repugnant thing possible. That was the joke of it. He was insulting Nazis. And then there's a story about like some guy actually in Germany trained his dog to do it, and then he got in trouble because they were like, "How dare you insult us?" But they tried to lock him up.
Yeah,
for making a video.
Scary. That's
well, they
scary.
did, didn't they?
But then he went to court. I think he had to pay a fine or something. He did get arrested. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
he got arrested. And I'm pretty sure he got tried for it and went to prison. Yeah,
he didn't go to prison. I don't think he went to prison.
I believe. I don't know.
Thank you. I thought he'd pay a fine or something. But then he made another video where he has a white pug and a black pug, and he made the black pug do the black power fist, which is effectively the same thing. That video is so good. And then like as it's doing it, there's a knock on the door, and he's like, "Oh no, it's the Labor Party!" And then he has to like hide all of his books. And then he's like, "I gotta hide books." And then he's going through his bookshelf. He's like, and then he grabs the Torah, and he's like, "Oh crap! Oh crap!"
Doesn't know what to do. Yeah,
It looks like he was fined.
Yeah, he was fined.
800 euros.
And that type of humor, that was very, very. There's actually a picture of like Taylor Swift at like a Halloween costume from like 2009, and the guy she's with has a swastika on his shirt.
Wow.
And like, but the thing is they'll just overlook it. If you sell enough pumpkin spice lattes and albums, like they'll just let it go.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
But also, there's something to be said about the fact that it wasn't that offensive back then. People would see it as funny, even though obviously it's egregious imagery and it reminds you of obviously the atrocities. But there was a time when people didn't necessarily internalize it as that person actually being a Nazi. It was really just a Halloween costume.
Yeah, we'll get back to the place where symbols aren't the same thing as actions. Sometimes they wave in and out of reality. Like you forget what a symbol used to mean, or it means something new, and then it no longer means it. Like what's more vile, having a swastika on your shirt or killing someone?
Right. So
killing someone,
or celebrating and defending those who do. Like this is the point. When people need to understand the actual moral qualms that exist with cancel culture. It's not so much that someone said something shocking and offensive so they got fired. It's that what they said actually wasn't shocking and offensive and they got fired. So when like Sarah Silverman does a bit about blackface, she's trying to be a shock comedian. We get what she's doing. She's not literally intending to insult black people. But she got fired from a movie over it. Yeah. That's ridiculous. When Harvard students sign a letter blaming Israel for the mass murdering of civilians, then we kind of like, I can understand. Look, you should not hire these people. And I'll tell you why. It's not cancel culture. Anyone who signed that letter showed that they are stupid, did not read it, did not think ahead. Do you want to hire someone to your company who blindly marches with morons?
Yeah.
Or do you want to hire someone who's like, I read that letter and said, no way.
It's one of two options. You're stupid or you're evil. And neither one of those are someone I would want in my life in any capacity.
Why not both?
Definitely not someone I'm giving money to. Or both. Most likely both. But, you know.
But that's it. It's like, Sarah Silverman makes a joke, and other people have made jokes. Like, okay, keep your job. I don't care. And then they explicitly defend terrorism, and it's like, okay, you're bad people. I don't want to be around you.
Yep.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.